It was a cold night in New York City. The streets hummed with life. Honking taxis, people rushing home, the distant sound of a saxophone playing on a street corner. For most people, it was just another evening. But for Anthony Carter, tonight would be a test. He adjusted the cuffs of his navy blue suit, exhaling as he stepped out of the towering Hamilton Law Building. The day had been long, longer than most. Another wrongful conviction overturned. Another young black man, Malik Reynolds, freed after spending 6 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Anthony had made it his life's mission to fight for people like Malik, because once, he could have been him. He reached his black Mercedes S-Class, the polished surface reflecting the glow of the streetlights. Just as he unlocked the door, red and blue lights flashed behind him. The sharp wail of a police siren shattered the moment. Anthony froze. A voice followed. Sharp, commanding, unfamiliar. "Hey! Hands where I can see them!" Slowly he turned. A police cruiser had pulled up, and stepping out was a tall, broad-shouldered officer, his hand resting on his gun holster. Officer Bradson. He walked with the swagger of a man who believed he was in control. His uniform was crisp, but his eyes carried the look of someone who had already made up his mind. "Nice ride," Bradson muttered, circling the car, smirking. "Bit too nice for someone like you." Anthony took a slow breath. "Someone like me?" "Yeah." The officer stopped in front of him. "A guy dressed like you, driving a car like this, looks kind of suspicious, don't you think?" Anthony had heard this before. Not in these exact words, but in the same tone, the same look. Pulled over for looking suspicious. Followed in stores for just checking in. Ignored in high-end restaurants, mistaken for the valet. He had lived this story too many times. "This is my car," he said, his voice steady. Bradson chuckled. "Yeah? Let me see some ID. And keep your hands where I can see 'em." Anthony moved carefully, slow, deliberate motions. No sudden movements. Because a black man reaching into his pocket too fast? That could be a death sentence. He pulled out his wallet, flipping it open and handing over his federal-issued ID. Bradson barely looked at it before shaking his head. "Oh, yeah? Real? Convincing?" Anthony's brows furrowed slightly. "You didn't even read it." "I don't need to." Bradson's voice was filled with casual arrogance. "You think I haven't seen fake IDs before?" And then, it happened. Bradson lifted his radio. "Suspicious black male, possible grand theft auto, bringing him in." The words hit like a punch. "What?" Anthony's patience snapped. "I just showed you my ID." Bradson smirked. "Yeah, and I don't buy it." Then without warning, he grabbed Anthony's wrist. "Hands behind your back. You're under arrest." Heat rushed through Anthony's chest. This wasn't about the car. This was about power, control, putting a black man in his place. Bradson was already pulling out his handcuffs. Then, another set of headlights flooded the street. A second police car screeched to a stop. The door flew open. A younger officer jumped out, eyes scanning the scene. Officer Miller. He frowned as he walked up, looking between Bradson and Anthony. Then, his gaze landed on the ID in Bradson's hand, and his face drained of color. "Wait! Wait! Let him go!" Miller shouted, almost running toward them. Bradson stiffened. "What? Why? He—" But Miller wasn't listening. He snatched the ID from Bradson's hand. His eyes widened, and Bradson's smirk vanished. He read the name, Anthony Carter, federal judge. His stomach dropped. The blood drained from his face. He had just handcuffed a federal judge. Anthony exhaled slowly, stepping forward. His expression didn't show anger, just disappointment. "Maybe you should read my ID this time, officer." Bradson stammered. Judge Carter, I didn't realize." Anthony held his gaze. Number you didn't care to realize. Miller turned to Bradson, disgusted. You just tried to arrest a federal judge? You're done, Bradson. Anthony sighed, adjusting his suit sleeves. Tomorrow morning you'll be getting a call. Not from your department, from my office. Bradson knew it was over. The aftermath. The next morning, NYPD headquarters was in chaos. Bradson's name was all over the news. Racist cop arrests federal judge, justice served. By mid-afternoon, Bradson was fired. Anthony? He didn't need revenge. Justice was enough, because sometimes karma comes faster than you expect.